I love your movie
So
so
sweet.
much. I when I watched it, I realized, I'm usually like feverishly take notes, but I was just kind of like lost in the feeling of it
Yeah.
quite a bit. I think I'm also like getting to an age where I don't know, I think I personally respond to a lot of stuff that deals with like memory and regret and things like that. And I just think it's really I feel like I could like almost smell the movie. I feel like I could feel the heat. Um sweaty day. Um Long rambly introduction. Thank you for taking that time to talk to me. Um
Rumble away. You're good.
I think the a line that stuck out to me was on the answering machine on a message where someone says, "I'm trying to say this the right way." And I do want to talk about the mechanics of the messages in a second, but I guess I wanted to ask you first what it's kind of like to write towards the idea of regret and memory, because that's obviously something that I really responded to.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think ultimately memory is like fundamentally revisionist. Like the film
Ooh.
asks the audience to assemble meaning the same way that memory does through
Mm-hmm.
fragments, associations, and feeling. And I think that ultimately it can also feel, even through memory, really unresolved. So I was like
Yeah.
interested in this plot line in general that was unresolved because these unresolved spaces, I feel like they're the most active. And I think
Mm.
that that's where the audience begins to really co-author meaning alongside the film.
Yeah.
So I think that, obviously this film is inspired by the last afternoon that I spent with my really close friend that passed away really tragically. And I think that what that grief kind of taught me was that you might forget the conversation or where you guys were, but you'll remember their laugh or
Mm.
the way that they said your name or the breath right before a
Mm.
sentence. And I think that the tapes really bring you back to this sensorial place of proximity that might not inherently be real,
Mm.
but it's real to you.
Yeah.
And we're kind of able to dip into that in a way of that, bookended in this like liminal space, an afternoon that must begin and end.
Mm.
And I think in the liminal space and dealing with memory, there's this innate threshold, you know?
Mm.
You're in between reality and absence. Like, do these tapes ever exist like our memories do? And yet the breath brings you back to that intimacy, you know?
Well, like the tapes really, I feel like I would almost, I kind of feel bad for people that are too young to remember like an answering machine.
I know.
Like I vividly remember like a red dot blinking at my mother's house, like on the op opening the entryway table.
Yeah.
And I remember what a big deal it was for when we got an answering machine, which is kind of crazy. But hearing you just say that, like the voices on a tape, I mean, there's something that really uh was really evident to me, that like the emotions while they're on a tape feel very, very immediate, and they're very, very alive. Like it made me think about how, it's not just a recording of somebody's voice, but it's the feelings that they're sort of emphatically, saying. Like I don't know, I was really taken aback by how present it felt, the emotions felt. And then I kept thinking about how when you're recording a message, you probably are aware, especially on a tape, I only have 30 seconds to say something. I have this amount of time to say something. I was going to kind of ask if the tapes themselves, I wanted to know if any of them were like actually just old tapes, or and I assume probably not, considering how they fit inside the narrative. But I mean, I kind of wanted to ask, like, if you recorded those, like, what kind of, I don't say what kind of direction did you give for those, but I mean, like, Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's like, again, I think that what fascinated me just overarchingly about the tapes was that they really preserve something that's so
Mhm.
increasingly rare, which is, I think, it's not a text, it's not an emoji,
Yeah.
exactly to that point that you're saying. It's the
Mhm.
texture of the human voice and also this immediate intimacy and also agency. Like, call me back right now, or
Oh
this,
yeah.
you might not ever get this. And I think that there are these like mini arcs that can happen
Mm.
naturally inside of these confines of the tape. You only have so much, time to leave it, or, someone interrupts you. I think that in terms of like the approach into recording them and having them, I mentioned that when we closed out the actual film shoot, it was like the next shoot began. And
Mm.
that shoot was this co-narrative because they play as two, kind of like parallel narratives throughout the film. And the way that I obviously for, just like release, issues, you can't just take like a random person's
Right,
voice.
right, of course.
So would love to do that. But apparently this is a thing, like going to old vintage stores and listening to answering machine tapes. I heard friends talk about it. And I also got the idea from like plosives through my friend's last message to me and like how it would feel like
Right.
breath through the speaker. But the way that I directed them was I had a few tapes in mind and we'd play them in the film. So we'd
Mhm.
play like either temp or some of them really were in the end in our edit. But I would play them during the film. And I really also wanted points of like reaction, like, and I really love that moment where Eli Brown's character, Tylo, gets angry that this girl's fighting for something, like
Mhm.
she's like really she's being raw and fighting for something, and Rune is kind of like it sounds like they're trying to get away from each other, like they don't like each
Yeah.
other. She's brave, he says. So
Mhm.
I think that like the directions in the tapes was I really wanted the voices of New York, which is really different, or kind of like the East Coast, like
Mhm.
your auntie from Philly, or your dad from Queens. So I
Yeah.
want kind of like vernacular feel, and also like you don't know what time period it is. And we did a lot
Yeah.
of sound work with our sound designers to have like trains going by or a dog barking in the back, like deep in the
Oh.
backdrop, pots and pans falling. Like we really wanted a lot of depth and it going backwards, just like the way memory does. Like we go
Mm.
into the hippocampal lobe, and we retrieve these long-term memories. So I wanted this kind of deep well of feeling, thought, and texture. But in terms of direction, I mean, it was as fun
Wow.
as I called my doctor's office during the edit, and the reception was, was incredible. And I was like, "Who are you?" And I'm on the phone with her. I'm in the edit too, like with my editor. I go,
Yeah.
"Who are you?" And she was one of my favorite voices. That was like, "Boy, stop leaving love songs on my mom's machine."
I
Like,
love that. That's great.
oh, that
That was
voice,
her. That
that
was
was her.
Oh, she was one of that was the one of the voices like who I want to know who this woman is. I really
Keep
do.
talking, talk forever. And it's like these voices that can feel mundane. Originally we had like fax machines because I remember when we were growing up, like a fax machine, like, murmur, murmur would kind of like that sound. I don't even know what it's called, but that, or like your script, we had another tape that was also there that we took out. That's like, honey, your script's ready at the pharmacy. And like we had all these, then we're like, no, we really need drivers and we need to drive the plot a little bit more. So we had to get
Yeah.
rid of stuff. But also like I really wanted points of like subtle care and love, like the mechanic being like, Rashida, you keep
Hmm.
going like this, you're gonna break down too, and like
Yeah.
him talking about her going so fast in life and overworking or whatever, and having this like Italian mechanic care for this woman, Rashida. And it's like these really subtlety, like these moments of subtlety of love and also the complexities of love. Like one of
Mm.
the takes I got from childhood as a memory where this young boy came out as gay and got kicked out of his house
Mm.
and no one could find him. And so he ended up going to one of my friend's houses and sleeping on the couch. And the mother called him, being like, I don't know what's going on in that house, but like he's welcome here for
Mm.
whoever he chooses to be. And like, I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on. So it's like these subtleties of, as writers and directors that come from our past and our present and being in New York, but also just about experiencing decades of love and
Mm.
and how we can weave that in such a subtle
Mm,
way. What I really hope to do with this film was you would want to listen to it back to catch those and like watch it back many times to kind of get all of those little quiet notes of
mm,
love and acceptance. And my father was the voice because he's from Queens. We had to have it of the closing tape of, reach for the fireplace and love, not the fireworks.
mm,
And it's like this moment of like he hasn't seen his son since Christmas, Marcus. And it's like, obviously he came out as gay and they haven't spoken. And he's like giving him that poignant, moment of like a father also then not only saying like, please come back, but like giving him advice on love so he's protected. And
yeah.
yeah, it was like voices, that were really similar to, I think, just like that enigmatic way of being around New York and all of the different chaos that goes on here, but then also the universality
Hmm.
of love. And I wanted it to feel warm and have agency, but subtle, but also kind of fun too. And like that old
Yeah.
woman, that kind of as we come out of that mini flashback of like, like what was the quote? That's like how things change. And that
Hmm.
old woman was one of my favorite ones as well, where, yeah, just talking about how life can really slip by really fast. So, anyway, I'm rambling, but those were
No,
some.
it's great. No, I mean the amount of texture. I mean that's why I was like tricked and like it worked. It worked on me. I was like these have to be real tapes. Um, the the like the women's voices, like their sort of New York accents, is like that reminds me of it reminded me all these like different character actresses that I love. I was like, that's a Mercedes Rule, that's a Caroline Aaron, that's Lorraine Bracco. Like I was just like, I don't know. I feel like, especially with some of the ladies, I was just like, I can hear them in their kitchens. I can hear them like taking 30 seconds to leave a message. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I saw a movie where like the audio really kind of let my imagination run wild with like what are the circumstances, which I thought was really really cool. um I gotta talk about the guys first of all. Talk about immediate crush on Eli Brown. But well, first of all, I mean, good God, the first image of him, I think he like turns around with that gray torn shirt, and I was like, you're kind of dangerous, but I like it. Um, Julian De Niro, holy, what a handsome devil that guy is. I was really taken aback by how you folks really play around again with memory but also a sense of touch. Like there's like a almost like an arc about how they touch each other and how close the camera is to them. Um the the moment towards the end when they're on the motorcycle and his arms go around his waist, that I like almost started crying
I
watching
mean,
that.
if I could even, okay. Thank you for saying that because, what was really beautiful about finally seeing it in a theater was getting audiences' reactions. And I had
Mm,
one great audience member come up to me being like, if people don't understand that that moment of putting your head on someone's shoulder like that is is love,
mm-hmm,
like he was like, you wrote, like, you get love. And I think that that moment for me is about the ultimate feeling of surrender
mm,
so deeply in
oh,
love as the vastness of life passes you by on this motorcycle. Because, I got really into riding motorcycles. I got my motorcycle license. And then, I was like, I don't really want to die right now. So I started riding Vespas and whatever. And, whether I was riding or on the back, I'd always put my head on someone's shoulder. And it was always in the moment of like complete surrender and trust for that person. And then the only way to say it is like the vastness of life because there's no we're not in a car. You feel life moving through you and towards you. And so that moment I really wanted to briefly encapsulate the brevity of life, the vastness of life, but also like the most complete and utter moment of surrender and love and trust just through that gesture. So yes,
that
absolutely. And I think, yeah.
that was just like one of the most like sexiest and most loving images that I've seen in a long time. And it's just sort of it made me think about if these young men are self-conscious about people seeing them, they're whizzing by so fast that it doesn't matter. Um, and like that comes after like the moment with him like cutting his hair. Even that like is, I don't know, you can feel the breath of somebody behind you when they're doing that. I don't know. I was just really impressed by how that whole thing evolves. And
And I also found that like shooting Boyhood, I just found that these gentle
mm,
moments are really also akin to the female experience and just the
mhm,
human experience, like of touch and subtlety. And I think that the film really signifies an importance of the gentle moments that kind of
mm,
pass in between. And I think this like vulnerability of platonic love into romantic love. And coming of age for me isn't 18. It's like mid 20s when you're understanding your sexuality and you're really understanding the depths of
God.
love for the first time. And it could feel confusing. It could feel scary and uncertain. And
Mm,
I wanted to encapsulate a moment, like a lot of people were talking about Call Me by Your Name and, like After Sun and like a world that some of texture of this film lives in. And I think that, even in Call Me by Your Name, he's quite young. And it's like coming of age is not this young age. It's
mhm,
it's when you're coming into yourself. And I wanted
yeah.
to specifically not only capture the moment of, my best friend, my producer, my very close friend, my producer, and also, our relationship right before she passed, but also I think the gentleness of Boyhood that I would love to also just continue to see. That's like these characters where they also push and pull, I think, in ways where you really like love one of them and then you don't, and then you like then you're oh, and I actually love this one. And it's like I think Tyler's character in the beginning and speaking of Boyhood and gentleness and subtlety,
Mhm,
I think Tylo was like this explosive, he's angry, but then you realize actually that like he was just the truthful one. He was like the
yeah.
vehicle of truth, like I'm not gonna avoid. And there's a,
Mm,
there's definitely elements to how boys want to and or can interact. And I think avoidance is a big part of it. And that's why there is such brevity, right? Such a succinct way that the
yeah.
script is written where they're not always saying everything. It's what you're not saying. It's looking over there. It's pass me this. It's, oh my God, you got a new ring, or the brushing of the hands right before the spliff.
Mhm.
It's just, yeah, it's all in these kind of gentle notes. And I think that this is, the kind of cinema I'm really interested in. And I was just so happy that it all really came together and the boys' performances were out of control. I
God.
mean, I, I just, I could not have imagined two other boys better. And right before, and we were like going around on which characters they should play, and like last minute, I was like, oh, it's so obvious. And I really love how Julian has this sense of like he doesn't think about it. It's very guttural, his
Yeah.
performance. It's very like raw and real and awkward. And I think having more characters that are a little awkward and they don't know what to say is something that is really beautiful to harness in
Mm,
our conversations on the screen. So
yeah.
more people can see versions of themselves or their best friend. And then, Eli's character just being, so sexy and just such a vibe, you
Well,
know?
it's just sort of like I mean, I could talk to you for another hour just about how, like, the first time that we see anybody, I mean, the opening shot of him, like, getting up and doing pull ups or, in public on this hot, sweaty night. And then, like, 2, 3 minutes later, he's, rolling around, like, a bedroom with one of his best friends. That it's so weird to think about how those like feelings can be so easily harnessed by that kind of like physicality. I was like, oh my god, they've done this a million times. They've probably done this with each other since they were like 11 or 12, just playful tussling when they were just friends before anything else grew between them. It's just so, I don't know, the smoky, sweaty room that they were in. I can't imagine how many times in their lives these two guys were getting stoned in that room together. It's probably so ingrained in the history of their friendship. It's just
And it
so.
And it's like you want to create worlds that we miss after, that we want to always like live in a part of our brain, even subconsciously after we see any film that we love or a photograph even. And I
Hmm.
think it's like creating these kind of these worlds with such depth and texture and wanting to live there like just a bit longer was really the goal that, we worked on with Pilly Weber, our art department, our amazing set designer. And I think that, and also, what you just said about the pull-ups, and we call them the park boys. And I love those boys so much who we casted for that park scene. And it was like, I really wanted to create, I think it was really important to ground the film in a neighborhood story because we're
Yeah.
inside. And I think that the Park Boys are levity, like they're fun. They're like they're the boys, and it's Boyhood, and it's like a little masculine and a little gritty, but then it's still just like a little bit of this gentle touch still. Like even with the pull-ups and even with it being shot on film, and we shot that in this really great Queens Park. And I just think that it's friendship, it's masculinity, it's Queens, it's grounded in this kind of neighborhood story. And I think that, you know,
That's
also when we were, shooting the Park Boys and in the final edit in the film that you see, it's like that was the only time we used the sonic motif, which we
okay.
described as we coined as voices from the other side.
Mm.
And that's the only time that our choir would come in. So it was like layered of this like fierceness and boyhood and neighborhood story, but then also it's when our motif really anytime comes to life that, someone has passed or is about to pass. And
Mm.
it's like having it being bookended by like kind of this like next day ish feeling, or you don't know when or where in this kind of suspended space of like, is your friend ever going to show up? And it's really, obviously people interpret as it will, but it's meant to be the moment right before he finds out that his friend has passed, but you're looking for them. And
Mm.
and it was always this scene of like defiantly searching that was written in the script and searching for our friends forever. We see a
Yeah.
doppelganger after they've passed, and you feel like you heard them or someone saw them or you feel like you saw them. And it's this moment again of like proximity and grief and searching, but also the suspense of that moment right before it happens and that
Yeah.
news
Oh my
gets,
gosh.
put in front of you. But yeah, love those boys. All the boys were great.
All the boys are great. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your time. I love this movie so much. Is it playing after Tribeca? Is it scheduled to play somewhere else soon?
Um, we hope so.
Okay.
We
I'll
don't
keep
know
an eye
yet.
out.
We got a big festival run ahead of us. We'll
Yeah.
see. It's like it's such a New York story that we're gonna see. It's festivals are really about like where's the best place for it. And I
Hmm.
do feel like Tribeca
That's a
was,
great.
oh my God, I couldn't
Perfect.
have that. Like
I
a New
know,
York
right?
film in Queens, and it was just like we're very lucky to be at home there. And
Hmm.
so we're excited for the rest of the year and how everyone keeps reacting to it. But people like you are so important. You know what I mean? Like people that really kind of get the nuances of life. So I've just been really excited to be connecting with audiences and people seeing it or watching it that just get it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. So, thank you so much. Thank you for being so generous with me.
So
Yeah,
much.
just looking forward to see where it pops up again. So,
Absolutely.
buckle up for a long season, I guess.
Let's go,
So,
baby.
yeah,
This
let's
was
go,
such a
baby.
pleasure, by the way. Thank you for having any interest in the film. And
Oh,
I also wanted to like add something that, you know, it ended up being kind of this like calling for anyone that's lost somebody. Like
mm,
a lot of people that started working on the film was like, I worked on this because like the voices from, that I listened to, the voice note of my friend that passed, etc. And like people will come out of the woodwork that
mm,
was like, I really connect with what this film does. It makes me feel closer to someone I've lost. And for something about two boys listening to tapes and, unrequited or, unresolved love between them, it doesn't really hit on grief as much, but it comes from that place. And it's wild that that was imbued a bit in
mm,
people that have watched it or worked on it or like saw it, etc. That people kind of feel like this all like anyone that's kind of lost someone and kind of took a moment from that, like they get it, like they can already see through it. And that's been a really beautiful, you know, phase two of when you release them. It's like it's the saying that goes, that's a film isn't a film until it's witnessed,
mm.
So now having it be witnessed, I think that you realize that like cinema is kind of not only like this act of expression, but of processing. And it's been kind of beautiful to process with others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I don't know. I feel like, people reacting to it. I mean, you're probably know better than I do that like people are gonna, react in such different ways, and that continues the sort of the life and the aliveness that the movie can have. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so
Um
much today. I appreciate you.
yeah, of course. Thanks for letting me ramble at you. I really dig it. So
It's fun.
I'm gonna talk about this movie with anybody who will listen. So thank you so
Please
much for your
do.
time.
Thank you. Have a
Yeah.
wonderful day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.